Well, ladies and gents, you know what we are discussing today. The great presidential debate was last night, Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. And I have to admit that after watching it, I've had a complete change of heart. Watching the debate and refreshing my Twitter feed made me realize something. The propagandists, they're having all the fun. Seriously, what am I even doing on this show trying to tell you guys the truth? They get to be creative and interesting as they work to spin reality. Like this journalist from NBC, who immediately recognized that whatever the dosage of amphetamines that they were likely injecting into Joe Biden's ass ahead of his performance, it just wasn't strong enough. So she set out to provide viewers with an early excuse. She tweeted this. It reads, new. 2 sources familiar with the situation say President Biden has a cold. Just a cold, guys. Yeah, I was thinking maybe she misspelled dementia, but let's go with that. Joe Biden had a cold last night. Today, I am her. I am Kelly O'Donnell of NBC. I am this. I am a mainstream media journalist, and I'm going to give you 3 very clear, indisputable reasons that you should totally not believe your own eyes or ears and vote for Joe Biden this November. Please. That's what's coming up on Candace. All right, guys, so I don't know if the latest model of COVID dropped last night, but it appears to me that a lot of people had a cold last night. A lot of people must have had sinuses, maybe lost their sense of taste, because the usual pundits just weren't responding to the debate in the way that I thought they would. I was really shocked to hear the reviews of Joe Biden's performance pour in. Here are just a few from liberal organizations, no less. Take a listen.
The people who were texting with me were very concerned about President Biden seeming extremely feeble, seeming extremely weak.
I've been talking to a lot of leaders in the Democratic Party, electeds, coalition leaders. There's a full-on panic about this performance.
John King has described a panic inside the Democratic Party right now because of President Biden's performance in tonight's debate. He's been hearing from Democratic lawmakers and others around the country. Some within your own party are wondering if President Biden should even step aside. What do you say to that?
What? Step aside? Feeble, weak, concerned, panicked? This is insane. They must have been watching something else. I mean, at least Van Jones had a little more heart when he touched upon the subject. Here's what he had to say.
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis, you kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man.
Thank you, Van Jones. I also love that guy, and he is a good man, and he does care about this country. And anybody who's saying anything else is obviously wrong. I want to be clear to you, America. Biden last night was forthright, he was audacious, and I would argue that he was both clear and concise in all of his answers, which brings me to reason number 1 that you should definitely, totally go vote for him. And that's because of his communication skills. They are second to none. And in case you need reminding, here is Joe Biden last night explaining to voters how he is going to tax trillionaires, he meant billionaires, so that we can have free childcare. Take a listen.
What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
Yes, thank you, President Biden. You know what? I don't like the faces there that Trump was making at him, like he was struggling to understand the end, and people were circulating this clip as if what he said didn't make sense. So we decided to create this quotable for you of what he was saying about childcare and elder care and what he was going to do. He said, quote, for clarity, childcare, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, dealing with everything we have to do with the look. There was some general squealing that took place after that. And then he said, if we finally beat Medicare. And I think that clarifies everything. Similarly, on the topic of open borders, Biden offered a clear solution when he said that he would, quote, put a total ban on the total initiative relative to what we are going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers. And I was disgusted to see how Trump responded to him with such nastiness. Take a listen.
There are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
I can't believe Trump said that. It doesn't matter what he said. It gets the people going. People were hyped because he was saying some stuff, and it's not necessary to point out that it doesn't always make sense. Which brings me to reason number 2 that you should get out there and vote for Joe Biden this November. It's because Joe Biden has the audacity. We need a leader that is audacious. And for me, I recognize that when he began yelling at Trump about sleeping with porn stars. Take a listen.
How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
The morals of an alley cat, he said seriously, as if Hunter Biden's laptop doesn't even exist. It was just a trove of pornography. And when you are talking about people and molestation and sleeping with other people, the fact that Joe Biden got up there and pretended that Hunter Biden was not even a person in his life so that he could land a punch on Donald Trump, I thought that was brave. But the number one reason that I'm asking my listeners to get out there and to vote for Biden this November is because this is a man that is brave enough to cheat and to lie when everybody is watching. And that reminded me of my college years when I watched South Park and they did an episode on Bill Belichick and cheating. And yeah, they had some very good lessons and tidbits about the way to cheat. Take a listen.
This is Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots. He's won 3 Super Bowls. How? He cheated. He even got caught cheating, and nobody cared. Bill Belichick proved that in America it's okay to cheat, as long as you cheat your way to the top.
Hey, I don't want to be called a cheater.
No. If you cheat and fail, you're a cheater. If you cheat and succeed, you're savvy.
Joe Biden is savvy. This is Joe Biden. And yeah, I think the 2020 election proved that in America, if you cheat your way to the top, if you don't get caught, you are nothing more than savvy. And that's not all South Park had to offer. Take a listen.
When Bill Belichick got caught with his camera, he did not panic. He simply said what every good white cheater says when caught. I misinterpreted the rules. It's what you must also say when caught cheating. I misinterpreted the rules. Say it with me. I misinterpreted the rules.
And I think that's honestly what happened last night. Beyond anything else, Joe Biden simply misinterpreted the rules. And so, yes, I did very much respect it when every time Biden was asked a question, despite us being informed that they had not received the questions and were allowed no notes, Biden just kept glancing down and offered these automated answers as if he had very much received all of the questions in advance. And beyond that, I had to respect it when he brazenly told viewers that the Border Patrol Union had endorsed him Take a listen to that moment.
By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me, endorsed my position.
And yeah, I'll admit it. It was a little bit surprising when the Border Patrol Union themselves then instantly tweeted this in response to that moment. They wrote, "To be clear, we never have and never will endorse Biden." Yeah, that tweet's been viewed 25 million times, but that doesn't actually matter. He misinterpreted the rules, right? He didn't know he needed the endorsement to say that he had gotten the endorsement. And I would say the same for all of the other lies that he told to us, to our faces, which were pointed out by none other than CNN. Take a listen.
Some of them. He said he's the only president in a while who didn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. Troops have, of course, died on his watch. He said he's put in a $15 per shot cap on insulin and Medicare. It's a $35 a month cap. He said it's a $200 cap on overall drug spending in Medicare. It's $2,000 a year. He said the border now has fewer crossings than when Trump was in office. That's generally not true. He said, or at least strongly suggested, unemployment was at 15% when he took office. It was actually 6.4. He said Trump wants to get rid of Social Security. Trump doesn't. He said billionaires pay 8.2% in taxes. It's much higher. He said Trump told Americans to inject bleach amid COVID. We know Trump made foolish comments about scientists studying disinfectant injection, but didn't frame it as advice to people. And Biden said the Border Patrol endorsed him. No, its union supported the border bill he supported, never endorsed him himself.
Yikes. Don't listen to any of that. Listen to me. Repeat after me, America. Biden, he misinterpreted the rules. He misinterpreted the rules. That's all that happened last night, and it is not a big deal. And by the way, we know what supersedes all of this nonsense, all of these people on panels talking about his performance, trying to analyze it? The experts. We know beyond anything else is that we should always trust the experts, and 10 out of 10 times the experts are doctors. And there's no greater expert when it comes to Joe Biden than his wife, Dr. Jill Biden. And she had this to say about the performance.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lie! Yes.
I love that so much because she really is a mom with their toddler. That's me to my son when he eats his vegetables at dinner. I'm like, Georgie, you did such a good job. And then everyone goes, yeah. In the kitchen, we all clap and we just make him feel so good. And he looks up and he smiles. It's beautiful. It is a touching, beautiful relationship. The First Lady, Dr. Joe Biden, and her husband, toddler Joe. So that's it, you guys. You know what to do this November. Do not believe your own eyes. Do not believe your own ears, and trust the experts. And guess what? If you do, it's probably going to be more or less the same of what we are dealing with. We saw Joe Biden struggling last night, but we all know that the majority of Americans, unfortunately, are suffering and struggling under his presidency. With what? Well, everyday bills, food, gas, and even power. If you own a home, I want you to do something for me. Call my friends at American Financing. The interest rates have dropped into the 5s, which is nearly a quarter of the average credit card rate. American Financing is saving their customers an average of $854 a month by tapping into their home's equity and wiping out high-interest credit card debt. $854 a month is like a $10,000 raise. Credit card interest rates are insane right now, and most of us are still carrying a balance from month to month. So call American Financing today and let them take care of that. And if you call today, you may not have to make next month's mortgage payment. American Financing, 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, guys, now it's time to get into some stories. But before we get into some stories, I want to remind you to head to locals.com, support the show in whatever capacity that you can to keep us free and independent. You can also head to clubcandace.com and get your Standis Cup. Those will be discontinued very shortly, probably by this time next week. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel because we are so close to 2 million subscribers. Okay, first up, on a serious note, what are my suspicions about the debate last night? Well, I think the majority of people are recognizing that it seems a little bit too perfect, right? They allow him on the stage. It's their team's idea to put him on the stage. They know that this man has been in a full decline. He has dementia. I mean, there's no question that he has dementia. And by the way, he's had dementia since he was first elected into office. They just used COVID as a way to shield him from the public, pretending that they were just worried about, spreading viruses. Well, unfortunately, as it works, as the years goes on, it can advance quite quickly, and that's what we're seeing. It's why he's got that gaping mouth, right? When you see him and that faraway stare. For any of us who have had relatives that have suffered with dementia, we recognize those things. We recognize, even in his gait, right? The way that he's walking, you recognize that this is a man that is suffering from some form of dementia, and they are not allowing the American public to know about it, or they have not in the past allowed them to know about it. So when all of a sudden they all, and I'm just referring to the mainstream media, begin parroting the exact same talking points. They're all saying the word panic. There's panic. There's panic. I think that was even the Chiron on CNN, that there was all of this panic that was happening and sources in the DNC are worried. We should be suspicious, right? Because they are the biggest liars in the entire world. They spent 4 years telling us that there was nothing wrong with him and that anybody who was saying otherwise was just being mean. When they do a flip like that, it means that this has been agreed to. And what I suspect is going to happen is you're going to have a scenario where they're just going to trade him out. They're going to trade him out. They're going to put someone else there. That's exactly what they want. They didn't want to run the race with anybody else. And now they're going to magically say, oh, we are going to install maybe someone like Gavin Newsom. If you want to deal with a real villain, we have a Gavin Newsom presidency, someone that is well within their ecosystem and who they can control without having to worry about the fact that they can't put him in front of a camera, right? They quite literally every day have to wake up concerned about the fact that they cannot put him in front of a camera. Joe Biden cannot be put in front of a camera. That is ultimately embarrassing. It's too much work for them, worrying about whether or not the president of the United States is going to lose his bowels at public events. It simply cannot stand. You have people walking him off stage, like he's their client, like he's their patient, rather. And so they are ready to trade him out for a newer model of somebody that they can control. And I am very concerned as to who that individual is. So in order for this race to stay, I guess, authentic in any capacity, even though it's not, given all the things that they are doing, I actually do want Joe Biden to remain the Democratic nominee. And I do not suspect that that will happen. Moving on to another story. So Piers Morgan responded to me. He responded to the episode. Obviously, we have been following the Brigitte Macron story, and I was quite stunned to learn that Piers Morgan intentionally peddled a lie to all of his viewers, pretending that the journalist who did the story was being sued for defamation for lying about the sex of Brigitte Macron. And of course, as I have revealed to you, and this is a very serious story, you should be paying attention to it because this is sadistic, no, the journalist Xavier Poussard was not sued at all. He is the chief editor of Fait et Documents. They have not been sued in any capacity. In fact, he is suing the state for documents to prove once and for all that Brigitte Macron is in fact Jean-Michel Trogneau, a massive state secret that is being kept, and alludes to the idea of blackmail, something that we understand is happening. I believe that there are a lot of politicians in power that have been blackmailed into positions, and that there is sort of this shadow government that is running the world. Obviously, by the way, that's not a conspiracy theory. Does anybody plausibly believe that Joe Biden is running America? No, obviously there is a shadow government that is running things, and he is just supposed to be there as a puppet. And I believe the same thing when it comes to Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte. And so, yes, Piers Morgan responded to me calling him out for intentionally misleading people to believe that Natasha Ray was being sued regarding the sex of Brigitte Macron. And here is what he responded on Twitter. He wrote, "Hi, Candace, I note your frantic attempts to deflect attention from our original bet. So let me repost it. Either accept or decline. Your choice, but one of us has spread lies about Brigitte Macron, and it's not me." Again, bad faith state actor. If you watch the episode, he knows for certain that Xavier Poussard is the person that initially published the claims, the only person who has done all of the research pertaining to the claims and was willing to put his name on it. And he just won't tell the truth. And the reason for that is because he knows it's typically very difficult when we live in different countries and we speak different languages for information to make its way around the globe and for it to be a true depiction of events. That was the purpose of launching the lawsuit against Natasha Ray. And as I said, even though she has a very severe form of cancer, they are going after her simply so media pundits like Piers Morgan can pretend that the lawsuit is pertaining to the sex of Brigitte Macron. She's likely going to win that lawsuit, by the way, because Natasha Ray did misspeak, as I said, about the documents being falsified by Jean-Michel Trogneu's town hall out in Amiens. But that's not about the actual sex of Brigitte. So the media is going to then parrot, oh, the defamation lawsuit, Brigitte won the defamation lawsuit. That is a lie. So we will continue to cover that story, and hopefully our truth will be screamed louder than they can scream and parrot the lies. All right, guys, moving on and away from lies. Obviously, I have been very open about the fact that my favorite congressman ever is Thomas Massie. He is absolutely amazing. He comes from Kentucky. His backstory is amazing. And one of the things I really admire about him is his strength to stand up to groups that are constantly trying to pressure and squeeze our politicians, groups like AIPAC, who have come after Thomas Massie for his America First perspectives. Not one red cent sent overseas, and until Americans are taken care of first. That is his policy for all countries. And when he did not get on board with, we need to send more money to Israel, they suddenly wanted him out of office and began spending money trying to get him out. And Thomas Massie, like I said, has just been an absolute bull. Well, I think unbeknownst to the majority of the public, he had been going through something quite personal, the details which have not yet been made available, but he did post that he lost his wife and his high school sweetheart this morning. And I was so heartbroken reading these tweets, and I just want to read them to you in their entirety. He wrote, "Yesterday, my high school sweetheart, the love of my life for over 35 years, the loving mother of our 4 children, the smartest, kindest woman I ever knew, my beautiful and wise queen forever, Rhonda, went to heaven. Thank you for your prayers for our family in this difficult time. She was valedictorian at our high school, where we went to prom together, accepted at MIT and Harvard, earned a mechanical engineering degree from MIT, and devoted her life to our family. We spent last week touring Mount Rainier with our grandson. She was the best mama ever. We love you, Rhonda." Truly just such a sad thing. And like I said, you just never know. Life is not obviously guaranteed, and you never know what somebody is going through. And to see what he has been going through in office, standing up for American values, and then to now put that and to combine that with what we now realize and recognize that he was going through in his personal life, it's heartbreaking. And so I just wanted to ask all of my listeners to just say a prayer for Thomas Massie, say a prayer for Rhonda. Beautiful relationship. You don't get to hear that often. People that actually have good values, put faith at the center of their relationship, and love their country. And so God bless Thomas Massie, and Rhonda, I will definitely include her in our prayers. All right, guys, let's get into some of your comments. The first couple of comments are pertaining to Tucker Down Under. It was a pleasure to watch him deal with those journalists because we know that they are all just so disingenuous. This person, Julie Mack, writes, "I'm Australian. I'm embarrassed by our media almost as much as I'm embarrassed by the American media. And of course, because Australia is America Junior, I watch closely what is happening in your country because I know we are constantly in the pipeline behind you guys, spiraling into the worst of the worst, absolutely embarrassing on a global scale. That quote-unquote journalist should hide in a cupboard for a while because she got totally owned by Tucker, and rightly so." You do not have to be embarrassed because obviously, like you mentioned, we are basically long lost cousins and we have the exact same media. And so we now get to relish in these moments only because the people are awake to it. I mean, these clips go viral and we get to laugh at them and we get to pull them up because they just sound so foolish. They sound like bots. Like I said, they are handed talking points. They have no independence in their thoughts, and they are there to defend the state and the state's initiatives. And so it's a good thing when we get to see a journalist like Tucker, who is independent, go out and hand them the business. Next up, we have, as a young Australian, let me tell you that Tucker, a citizen of another country, was way more patriotic than our own media and representatives. Every Australian should listen to that talk and be encouraged by it. Most Aussies are hardworking, conservative, honest, and have a culture of sticking up for the underdog. We have to start sticking up for ourselves and take unapologetic pride in who we are. My family are immigrants from South Africa, and today's climate does not want us to be proud of being Afrikaners. I refuse to see Australians receive that same treatment. We did not immigrate only to bend the knee again. And yes, you are correct. There seems to be this culture of bending the knee because people don't want to be called mean names, like we talked about yesterday. You don't want to be called racist, white supremacist, and so you just allow everything of value in your life to be destroyed by the state, as the state looks down on you and sends out journalists and reporters to make you feel badly about the fact that you have good values. And I believe very much that this is very intentional, and that we are not just becoming a communist nation, we're becoming a communist globe. Globally, everything feels that it is becoming communist. Next up, we have Kimsey. She wrote, Candace, this is a worldwide phenomenon. I live in Malta, a country within the European Union, and we don't recognize our country anymore. All that Tucker said, our government is importing new people, and the native-born people are being replaced. We are miserable. Our country is ugly and ruined, too expensive to live here anymore. Our kids have no future. It's like the government wants us to leave. They actually don't want you to believe. They just want you to be enslaved. Like I said, it's modernized, it's updated, and the media is there to abuse you psychologically. And the thing that gets scary is the generation that's coming up who doesn't remember, who will have no memory, rather, of what the country was like before this, because they will accept that as their new norm. And that's why the education system becomes so important for them to take over, to rinse these kids, to brainwash them into believing that what they're seeing is something to be appreciated, right? To appreciate filth, to appreciate everything that they're seeing, to appreciate the high taxes because there's some higher initiative that they're serving, some higher goal. And of course, that's, racial unity, sexual unity. You get to be non-binary. Like you're serving all of these weird narratives because they don't want you to look around and recognize that kind of everything has gone to crap. Kathy Myers writes, I was a Cold War kid who remembers putting their head under a desk in first grade. I will never forget my Catholic mother telling me, as she had Swan Lake on our black and white TV, quote, the Russian people are not like the Soviet government. They are very warm people who love beauty and are also being starved for this. We watched closely when Nureyev defected and cheered him on. She also spoke the truth to us about Marxism in Hollywood and our college campuses. She was awake because of her faith in Jesus Christ and imparted this to us. She raised 4 of us, staying home while my father worked all kinds of crazy hours. She never even drove a car. Yes, and I think that is a reminder and a lesson to all of us. When you are falling into the propaganda and believing that and perceiving that there is some enemy overseas, always remember that the enemy is the government, and it is the government overseas that is leading us to hate other human beings overseas. Like I said, that famous Aldous Huxley quote where he talks about, the goal of propaganda is to make human beings not recognize other human beings as human beings. And that's what they have been very successful in. And I think they sense that they are having some difficulty now because I believe there is a global awakening happening. And I just will not accept the idea that Russians are my enemies, that Russians are to be feared, that Putin is to be feared, number one. Like I said, we've done way worse things. Our governments in the West have done way worse things. Amira writes, I'm a Muslim woman, but I love Candace Owens so much. Although we have different religious beliefs, you say what so many of us are thinking. You are one of the only journalists who actually speak their mind and aren't just government pawns. Yes, especially pertaining to Muslims. I felt that was my ultimate brainwashing as a child, and that was really because they wanted to bomb Muslim countries. And a lot of the countries that they bombed had very old Christian populations there, particularly in Iraq. I think one of the oldest Christian communities was in Iraq, and they bombed that out of existence, and they want you to perceive the war by different means. And now I'm really starting to understand that they intentionally feed this hatred and this fear into children when they're young, so that we will accept our government committing acts that are just completely atrocious and immoral. And the American government has been dealing in immorality for a very long time. Lastly, we have a Manekt comment. Love that I'm getting so many people that are connecting with me on Manekt. I had my first German Manekt, and I also had a UK Manekt this week. So these have been my first 2 international Manekts. It's been exciting. I'm not going to read this person's entire comment, but I do want to get to the portion that I want to respond to. She writes, hey, Candace, I'm sorry, but I don't have a question. It was just worth it to me to send you this info in a way that you'd be guaranteed to see it. I'm a 31-year-old, married, praying for children, glad, trad Catholic in Tyler, Texas. Loved you since 2018 and so excited for your new chapter. Okay. Number 1, Foundations Restored, a mind-blowing documentary series by the Colby Center, a Catholic apostolate that examines belief in creation versus evolution. It's very important, you guys. I wanted to mention that. And then to her last one that she recommended on YouTube, Titanic, The Shocking Truth, 51 minutes long. I just wanted to let her know that I have been getting a ton of people commenting to me about looking into the Titanic, and I haven't done it, but I had heard the rumblings of it, and I promise that I will look into that in the future. I just need to make sure that I fact check everything. I think, and you guys let me know if I'm wrong, but this has something to do with the Federal Reserve and people that were against the Federal Reserve, which is obviously the greatest crime that ever happened. The greatest financial crime that ever happened was the establishment of the Federal Reserve. And every president or leader that starts speaking about that mysteriously ends up dead. And apparently, people that did not want the Federal Reserve to be established, who were standing in the way of the Federal Reserve being established, were on the Titanic. Let me know if I'm right in the comments. And then last second, kind of like Lucky Larry and 9/11, people that were supposed to be on it magically pulled out. So I've heard that. I've heard the rumblings, and you guys know that I am always down to look into another version of history because I now recognize that we are just being propagandized and sold lies. But I have to watch the Michael Jackson documentary first, so I'm going to have to put that on hold. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful weekend. Also letting you know that tomorrow we are going to be airing a special where I am going to be speaking to the people that put together A Sound of Hope, talking about foster care, talking about adoption, talking about the system. It's a conversation that a lot of people are having, and it is an important one. So I will see you guys then.